What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Magne F, and we're returning to Living With Ourselves 2024 as he unveils these tracks week by week. And the next one is God is in the Details, which is one of two expressions I've heard in my many years that are ultimately dichotomous in terms of the moral direction, but are similar in terms of the concept at play, which is to say, devil is in the details, or the devil is in the details, is something I've often heard, but I've also heard people say God is in the details. So, whether we're talking in a more positive or negative sense, the idea that subtlety or little nuances might actually be where the great benefit or harm from something comes, and in that way, if it's the devil is in the details, we're talking about things which are insidious, things which don't jump out right away as being big and ostentatiously damaging, but which on a longer timeline are more harmful. And if one is thinking about the positive expression, which at least on the surface of it is what it looks like for Mag's tune here, God is in the details, you could say that it's maybe not so much about these big, grand, overarching teleological ideas, but more in a perhaps William Paley-esque, everything is perfectly fine-tuned, just so in a way that leads to these beautiful and benevolent outcomes. So I would expect, even if the latter is the initial framing of the phrase, that Mags will have some satirical, sarcastic, critical, or more nuanced and mixed approach to the phrase itself, meaning his giving into Christmas was perhaps anything but that, at least in the nuances of the lines that came across, certainly by the end of the song. So as I said, I would expect it to be more than the phrase itself, more than it sounds like on the surface of it. So let's see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Magne F, his tune God is in the Details from his 2024 album Living With Ourselves. Oh! More auto tune.
Like the clouds in the sky, like it feels when you try. If God is in the details and what's he doing there, I wish he was the kind of guy to still be everywhere. The devil's at the door like some Halloween ghoul. I wish that he would go away. Crazy reckless fool. How the years fall away, like the ones in this grave, like the noise in the frame, disappear into space. How the memories fade, like the words that we say, like we're always too late. God is up in heaven, we're floating around. I don't think it can help us if he's not there all around. And friends are at the door and they want us to come out. I wish they would go away, leave us to our death. God is up in heaven, floating all around. I don't think he can help us if he's not there on the ground. And friends are at the door and they want us to come out. I wish they would go away, leave us to our doubts.
Leave us to our doubts. So, yes, very much taking the phrase and dissecting it and perhaps stretching it to the point where the flaws in it or the lack of philosophical covering for everyone becomes clear, which is to say, he does sound like he's talking about some fine, simple experiences, clouds in the sky, and things which can be seen in the light of the phrase as it's often invoked. But then he's saying, well, but if God is up in heaven floating on a cloud, it doesn't seem like it can do us a lot of good unless he's here on the ground. Was that the rhyme? And ultimately, given that things which may seem to one person like a William Paley as a perfect indication of the simple, subtle details that show the divine nature of the whole, maybe some of us don't see things that way. Maybe some of us see the imperfections. Maybe some of us, was the devil at the door? And I think also at the end, again, the friends are at the door and they want us to come outside, but leave us with our doubts. It sounds like he's saying there's some people who may not see things that way, and that's okay. It's fine if, for some people, details that speak to their beliefs and their attitudes are reflected in what they experience, but for other people, those same experiences, those same details might not suggest that, and they might suggest the more mixed or nuanced nature of reality, which once again feels like it would be very much in the typical stream of thematic exploration for mags. So yeah, it sounds like, again, maybe not even all that different from World So Strange in that people have different ways of seeing things, and where some people see perfect conviction and belief, other people might see doubts and cynicism or a lack of emotional transcendence, and perhaps those who do have that response should be left to have those feelings, or not abandoned necessarily, but they should be allowed to have a variant or minority view, if you will. So again, it feels very Mags thematically. Sonically, I'll admit I don't quite get the recurrence of the auto-tune vocals, and in fact in the chorus it made them harder to hear. The verses, especially that final verse where it stripped almost everything out of the track and it was nearly a cappella, I could hear that pretty clearly, but the chorus was actually made harder to hear because of that weird sort of melding, it's like everything is being melted into one tonal run, which, again, I don't know exactly the process of auto-tune, but my expectation is that it takes melodic moments that are outside what it is being told it should be and sort of forcing them into the proper, tone. It sort of blurred out some of the words, so I didn't hear the chorus as clearly as the verses. And although I don't dislike it, it made perfect sense on Giving In to Christmas. It was reflective of the whole idea of see, I'm doing something sentimental, and oh, by the way, that's what all these other artists who were just trying to cash in and make a, dime a dozen type of Christmas album that doesn't really have any depth of feeling and so on. It seemed to be a perfect cherry on top for that approach to writing a Christmas song, and one, a bit tongue-in-cheek. But on these other tracks, it feels like more an artist just, I'm going to have fun with this autotune. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I don't see it as necessary. And I know a couple people commented, Shell was saying, I like his normal voice, and by doing this, he's sort of taking away one of the elements that I appreciate in his music. And as someone who's been moved to tears by previous Mag songs, in part because of the fragility and vulnerability of his vocal delivery, it does make that a bit smoothed out to the point where it sounds a little less human, if that makes sense. So again, no criticism of Max. Artists are allowed to explore technology and try different things as the music industry evolves, but whereas it felt perfectly suited and amusing in the context of giving into Christmas. On these other tracks, the auto-tune usage has felt a bit nebulous. It's, kind of neither here nor there. It's not terrible, but it doesn't seem necessary, and it, again, sort of pulls out one of the elements that I've come to enjoy about his music, which is his very natural voice, which admittedly can hit some nice notes. I've talked about it before. When he goes high, sometimes it can sound very pristine and melodically enjoyable, but there's a more everyday guy aspect to his vocal delivery that it sort of gets washed away with the auto-tune. In any case, I enjoy the tune, even if I'm not quite sure if my initial interpretation of the themes is on point, so let me know if you have a different take. Other than that, let me know in general, and I will see you next time. Peace.